Hi there and welcome to Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman and my guest this week is Sally Coombe. Sally lives in Taranaki. She's a Dairy Women's Network volunteer regional leader, a dairy farmer and a chartered accountant at CMK, plus of course a mother of three, for goodness sake. So Sally, welcome to the program, and I'd love to start with a bit about your background, a very busy life you lead, but where did it all begin?
I grew up in South Taranaki on a dairy farm. So I'm lucky to have farming in my blood, and I went through schooling here in Taranaki and then on to university in Hamilton. And early days of uni, I met my husband, and he's also from here, so we then based ourselves here. I worked at IRD as an investigator, and then I decided to get into public practice and became a chartered accountant. And we have settled here in South Taranaki on a dairy farm that we own in equity partnership with family. And I work for CMK Accountants and am busy raising our children as well.
Gosh, was it always part of the plan? Did you always intend to return to Taranaki?
I think so. It's what I know. It's the region that I love, and to me it offers what we want for the rest of our lives and what we want our children to be part of, which is the land. And obviously in Taranaki we're very lucky to be close to the sea and the mountain, and I feel like it's a region that's got everything for us. So yeah, it probably was part of the plan, but perhaps subconsciously for a while there.
Now tell us about CMK Accountants in Taranaki. What do you specialise in?
So CMK, we're based in Taranaki and we've got 3 offices here. So my role is largely in the agri space. So I'm an agri accountant, predominantly looking after dairy farming clients and the occasional sheep and beef client. We also look after a wide range of commercial clients. So our firm is probably, I would say, 60% agri focused, but heavily involved in the commercial space as well. But definitely for myself and my role, it's more in the agri sector, looking after dairy farming clients mainly. And
of course you've got your role as the regional leader for the Dairy Women's Network. How long have you been involved with the network, and what sort of, I guess, drew you in the first place?
Yeah, so I have been a regional leader for nearly 3 years, and I came into the role because, firstly, I was attending some workshops that Dairy Women's Network were doing. So I was, if there was a health and safety workshop or something that was relevant to my farm and what I needed to know, then I would head along to those. And through work, I made a connection with Jules Benton, she's the CEO of Dairy Women's Network. And she was in her previous role working for, I guess you would say, an accounting software related kind of company. So we had a connection that way through that. And she said that they were a little bit light on the ground in terms of the regional leaders in Taranaki, and would I be interested? So that's how I fell into that role. And I've been doing that for nearly 3 years now.
And now CMK, your accountancy firm, has a sort of a partnership with the DWN?
Yes, we do. So we're really excited to have come on board as a silver partner, and basically to provide our support and expertise to the industry in regards to that. We're really looking forward to kind of being able to get out and about throughout New Zealand and help basically with different topics and different kind of areas that we know that our farmers need and want. And yeah, it's going to be a great partnership.
Well, of course, I'm pretty darn sure I know who does the books in your household, that is such an important part of what is a multi-million-dollar business for all dairy farms, for all farmers, for goodness sake. They're so valuable these days, so it's really important, isn't it? Do you think most farmers are onto it in terms of the financial side of their businesses?
I think that farmers do the best that they can, but we know that farmers are good at what they do. So it's really important in our minds for farmers to have rural professionals that are able to support and guide them, and not just accountants, but lawyers and farm advisors, to be able to give them the support they need to add on to their business the parts that they might not feel confident in, or that they need that extra little bit of help with. So we see accountants for farmers as being a really important role and a way to work together to kind of help achieve farmers' goals.
Do you see, I'm putting you on the spot just a little here, but do you see, is there a particular areas where perhaps farmers could do with a bit more sort of focus, if you like, in terms of the accountancy side of their businesses?
I think there's a couple of key areas. One area that's really important to us and equally as important to them is basically looking after their cash and being able to plan in relation to cash. So what I mean by that is budgeting and forecasting, and the really important role that can have in a farming business. It enables people to kind of not only foresee what's ahead, but make decisions around that. Our industry is ever changing, and there's so many fluctuations within the industry and within the environment that we can't control as farmers. So to be able to plan and see those numbers and then make decisions based on that is really important. And the other area that is equally as important is planning in general, and planning for the long term. And I don't just necessarily mean in terms of numbers, I mean in terms of what their succession looks like and what their growth opportunities look like, and what they've got ahead of them from a non-financial point of view.
So, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, in terms of your own situation, your own farm there in Taranaki, I mean, how often do you budget? Is it an ongoing thing? Presumably it is, you're updating it all the time, but how often do you forecast?
Yeah, so I do set an annual budget, and I think that the important time to do that for my farm is a couple of months out from the dairy season. So going into, say, next dairy season, I would be looking to kind of set a budget in sort of March or April. And then I think it's really important to reforecast and update that original budget when anything important is changing. So, for example, as the payout changes, or as we have interest rate increases, or just general cost changes. Or perhaps there's a bigger project happening on the farm. You may need to be upgrading your effluent or purchase a new tractor. So I think it's important, for my farm, I try to do this as often as possible, is to re-look at my budget and then reforecast based on those things that are changing. Yeah, so I think it's not a one size sort of fits all, that you have to sort of do it every month. But I just think it's important to be re-looking at it as things change along the way. And
when you talk of change, of course, the big changes in the last 2 years, for example, not only dealing with the COVID, but the Ukraine situation, the cost of fuel, the cost of fertiliser. I mean, everything's sort of gone crazy, hasn't it? So I imagine most farmers would look at that. How do I keep up with all this change and these rising inputs costs? Absolutely, and I think that you can prepare all you like, but there's going to be things that are going to come, change and happen that we don't know about. So I think, if we sort of backtrack 6 months ago or a little bit longer than that, we didn't foresee that the interest rates were going to increase as quickly. And we certainly didn't know that fertiliser was going to climb as high as it did. So I think it's just about, as farmers, taking those little snippets of information that we're hearing along the way, having a chat with our rural professionals and accountants, and kind of saying, hey, how can we best adapt and change, and what do we need to do with our budget and our finances to kind of cope with this? Do you find that the banks are helpful, that they're supportive when we're going through these sort of really difficult times? As an accountant, I think it's really important. It's about relationships for us. So in our firm and the banks that we work with, we have strong relationships with them. And I think that's the key, is being able to have that really open and clear communication, not just about sort of the economy and how things are going and what they're sort of predicting, but also from a client level, and being able to, ensure that we're both understanding what all parties are wanting and needing, and getting a bit of a plan in place to kind of help those clients together, so that we're working together as a team. Your company, based in Stratford, as a CMK Accountants, how does this partnership with DW and the Dairy Women's Network actually work? I mean, are you sort of offering advice the whole time, or seminars, webinars?
So we are quite a new partnership. So we've just kicked off over the last couple of month or so. So at the moment we're in the planning process, and we're having a lot of conversations with Dairy Women's Network about what their members are wanting. So we're basically saying, you know, historically, what are the things that Dairy Women's Network members are wanting to learn about, and also we are looking at, you know, thinking about the current environment and what's important and what's really topical at the moment for members, and basically with Dairy Women's Network trying to come up with a plan of what that will look like over the coming 12 months, and what types of things are important for us to advise and support on. And what it's looking like is we're going to kind of do a variety of events, and some of them will be online, which is great because we're all very used to that, you know, post-COVID, and also some in-person events. And for CMK, that's really great because even though we're based in Taranaki, we have clients from Northland down to Southland. So it's great that we, you know, from a geographical point of view, we'll be able to get out and about throughout New Zealand and do some in-person events as well in those regions. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
The program is Point of View. My guest is Dairy Women's Network Regional Leader Sally Coombe, and Chartered Accountant, and she's also a mother of 3 and has twins. So we want to find out a wee bit about them as well. That's all to come in the next part of our program. You're watching Point of View. We'll see you back here shortly. Welcome back. This is Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman. My guest Sally Coombe, Chartered Accountant and Regional Leader with the Dairy Women's Network, also mother of 3, and I mentioned this just before the break. You're a mother of multiples. Tell us all about multiples.
Yes, I am. So my husband and I, we've got identical twin boys who are 4. So, and I, strangely enough, am also a twin myself. So twins have always been a big part of my life. Got a wee bit of a surprise when I found out I was having them myself.
You're heavily involved in Multiples New Zealand, which is, now, pardon my ignorance, I've always referred to as twins. They're now referred to as multiples. Is there a reason for that?
I think it's because we're being inclusive of all types of multiples. So even though there you know, the most common one is twins, we also have families who have triplets and quads. So it's covering all types of multiples. And
so what does Multiples New Zealand actually do? What's the purpose?
Multiples New Zealand is a support group basically for families with multiples. When I found out I was having twins, my mother suggested that I become a member of our local group, because that's what she did however many years ago. And I did that. The dangling carrot was a box of free nappies. But what I probably didn't think that I would get out of it was a really great support network and a place to kind of meet up and hang out with other twin parents that were all going through the same thing as me. And then, of course, because of my role as an accountant, I became the treasurer for Multiples Taranaki. And because of that, I then became treasurer of Multiples New Zealand and part of their exec team. So yeah, it's a really great organisation that supports and provides, you know, guidance and help and cares for families that are kind of going through that multiple journey.
I imagine having twin boys, I know they're only 4 now, but in the future, if they have an interest in the farm, that's going to be fun, isn't it? To have all that added help around the place, they'll be right into it.
Absolutely. I can't wait until they can teat spray and, you know, get the cows in for us. They really love the farm. It's a little bit challenging with them on the farm at the moment just because they're so busy and you need eyes in the back of your head, but it's a lot of fun.
So do most farms have, or farmers have, an accountant, or do some sort of go it alone?
There's not too many farmers that I'm aware of that don't have an accountant, but of course I think everybody has a different accounting need, and therefore they might choose a bookkeeper as opposed to perhaps a chartered accountant. But I just think it's really important to ensure that whoever they are choosing is somebody that is able to be there right alongside them, and provide that assistance along the way, because, you know, like I've said, it's a changing environment. It's the agriculture industry is never no one year is the same. So it's about having those support people around you to ensure that you're kind of able to move and change as the environment does too.
And as far as your firm, I mean, as you mentioned before, that you've got clients from Northland to Southland, how does that work? I mean, I know these days technology is such that you can work the books just as easily wherever you are, but how do you manage to attract clients from all over the country?
I think from an attraction point of view, it's about us being out and about and having a profile and people being really aware of the type of work that we do. We do really pride ourselves not in just the completion of GST returns and tax returns, but really all of that other work that's so key for businesses. The budgeting and forecasting, the planning, and the looking out for growth opportunities, and all of that other really important information that businesses need to kind of get stuck into and look at as they're growing themselves. So that's what is important to us, that we communicate, as often as we can, whether that be by newsletter or through social media or word of mouth, because the relationships that we have with our clients is so key, and it's fantastic when they are speaking about CMK out and about. CMK have also released a couple of books in the last few years, and one of them is in particular for people in the farming industry. So that's great, and we were able to get them out. We posted, thousands of copies of them out, and that's a really great way for us to not only let people know what CMK are about, but also just keep up that ongoing education that we know that people need.
So, Sally, what does a day in your life, in your role as an accountant and a mum and a dairy farmer, how does it all pan out? How do you fit it all in?
Yes, it is. I've got a very full life. It starts normally very early. My husband gets up early to milk. I think he's up at 3:30 at the moment with doing AB. So my days start early and they end pretty early too. I'm normally pretty tired by that time of the day. But from a work point of view, no one day is the same. My role's quite varied, so I can go from sort of having a meeting with a client, reviewing their financial statements and sort of creating a tax plan, through to another meeting in the afternoon where we're looking at goals and their succession. And amongst that is another really important part of my role and of that of my colleagues is the upskilling and training of staff, and I manage a team of staff. So it's kind of as important to me as my client relationship, but also as my role within my wider team, and also the training and professional development that I like to do as well for myself. So every day is different, and that's the beauty of my role, is that it's really varied and never boring.
How big is the firm? How many accountants do you have?
We're a team of about 25. And we have our Stratford office, which is where we probably have a larger portion of the team, and we have our administrative team based there. And then we have an office in New Plymouth, and then we have an office in Hawera, which is in South Taranaki. So we're very covered across the region, which is really nice. And it allows us the ability to service and look after our clients in all parts of the region really well.
What about the likes of succession? Is that something you do as well? I mean, organise that, or is that more a financial advisor or planner?
No, absolutely. That's a really big part of CMK and what we're offering our clients. So we spend a lot of time working with our clients through their succession, looking at what their goals are, what they're wanting to achieve. We look at their current position and their overall kind of current financial situation and current environment and system that they're operating, and then we kind of work out their goals and where they want to get to, and try to help them implement a plan to get there.
But that includes sitting down and chatting about, well, I'm nearing retirement, what do I do next? I haven't got anyone who's necessarily going to step into the role. What do we do and to keep the family sort of, all balanced, if you like, in a financial sense?
Absolutely. So it really, the key of it all is what do you want? What would you like to do? And even though that might be very far removed from where they currently are. It's about listening and working that through. And if they're wanting a holiday home in Hawaii, then how do we get there? And what do we need to do differently and change, and what system do we need to kind of implement to get to that goal?
Do you have any time to do work on the farm?
Not a lot, and that's probably, my husband's probably quite pleased about that because when I step onto the farm, I find him another job. I really, really love the farm. I think being raised on a dairy farm and very active on the farm with my father as a child. So I do really, really enjoy it. It's just finding the time and the balance at the moment, because obviously dragging the 3 kids along for me to milk is a little bit tricky. But I do like to help out where I can. And I generally say to my husband and our team, if you see me, you see me. You don't, you don't. So yeah, I try to get out onto the farm when I can, but it's getting a little bit less and less at the moment.
I'm sure your husband is very pleased that he doesn't have to worry so much about all those dreaded books and filling out the forms, etc.
Absolutely, yes.
Tell us about the farm. I mean, what sort of farm? I mean, obviously a dairy farm in the Naki. So, how big is it, and what do you deliver, as it were?
Yes, so we're based in a little area called Taroti, which is north of Hawera and south of Eltham. We're probably about a 15-minute drive to the mountain, and we have we're very lucky to have beautiful flat land. We milk 450 cows. And we have my husband and 2 staff who help us to do that. And it's a well-run operation. We obviously, there's projects and goals that we have as well, and it's just about managing them along with finances and time and all the other things that farmers are juggling. But yeah, we feel really fortunate to have our farm and to be involved in an equity partnership with my parents. Yeah. Great opportunity.
Do you feel that we're, as a farming nation, in a reasonably good position, even though the times are so really challenging? But do you think a lot of the farming businesses are running well, in your experience?
I think they are, and I think that because we're coming off the back of a high payout in last season, I think it's put farmers into a good spot financially at the moment. We're seeing some really great principal repayment. I'm sure the banks are pretty happy. I do think though that because of all the changes out there, it can be an uncertain time for farmers. We know that the compliance that people are having to kind of go through with Fonterra and all that kind of thing can be challenging. And Hiwaka Ikanoa and all of the other kind of changes ahead of us that we're not sure about yet, Fonterra's capital restructure, all those sorts of things do leave us in a little bit of an uncertain time. But I think generally spirits are pretty high, and generally farmers are going pretty well. Yeah.
And what about the Dairy Women's Network? You've been a member for a long time. You're a regional leader, which is a great achievement in itself. Do you want to go further? Have you got plans in that regard? Have you got time?
I'm really enjoying my current role, and as a regional leader, it's really about the facilitation and help at our events. So it's not too time consuming, but it's a great way to kind of network and be amongst our farming community. I have recently taken up a volunteer role as the regional leader representative on the Dairy Women's Network board. So that's a great way for me, and I'm also an associate director on our local vet board. It's a really great way for me to kind of get a bit of governance experience as well. It's something that interests me, and I've done a couple of courses recently and really enjoyed them. So being part of the Dairy Women's Network board in that capacity will be really great, because it will give me not only some more experience in the governance area, but also another insight into Dairy Women's Network and how they operate and their strategic direction. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And you're really a great fan of the DWN and encourage others to join if they haven't already done so.
Absolutely, and it's so easy to join. You just need to like our Facebook page and have a look on our website and see what kind of events we are running. And then just by coming along to an event makes you an automatic member. So then you are able to kind of get our communication by email and that kind of thing more easily. So absolutely, I do encourage women in the industry and men. It's open to anybody to come along and see what we're doing and learn and get off the farm and chat with other farmers and just have a breakaway.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really admire you for all that you do and appreciate you giving up your time today to chat with us, Sally. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
So that's our point of view. My guest, Chartered Accountant, Dairy Women's Network Regional Leader, Sally Coombe. And we'll have another program at the same time next week, another point of view to share. We'll see you then.